The commercial property sector has highlighted major trends this new year, saying cash retail is fast becoming popular in that space. This comes as the industry battles uncontrolled odds, including elevated interest rates, high inflation, ongoing load shedding and economic uncertainty. Galetti Commercial Real Estate CEO John Jack joins us to unpack these dynamics further. Thank you so much for your time, John. Let's first maybe define what cash retail means in this space.
Listen, cash retail is really, it's your lower end retail where they're dealing predominantly in cash. I mean, so simply put, and there's a lot of demand for that because you're seeing that level of the market having quite sort of a sustained demand, if I could put it that way. So, there's not this, massive up and down. It's just a continued demand that the guys are always there, always buying. And so they're very popular and quite robust assets.
What is stoking the terminology of defining this trend as cash retail?
I think mainly it's because the banks are trying to say that they want to do a lot of, they want to remove their ATMs and they want to and shops want to get into a situation where they don't deal with cash. Obviously, cash is a risk asset. You have, if you bank with a card and you go to a center and you bank with a card, it's instantly banked. And also on top of that, no one can steal it. It's already gone into the banking system. However, with cash retail, you find that it pushes you up the risk curve because people can arrive and try and steal it. So the retailers are trying to push to go all cash, but obviously there needs to be quite a leapfrog event in South Africa where we still have a lot of people dealing in only cash. So what will happen is their entire wage or salary will get transferred to their account. They will go to the ATM and draw all of it out, not leaving anything in the account, and then they keep it themselves because they don't trust the banking system. And so you need to have a huge paradigm shift in how people deal with cash in the country to actually achieve the end of, let's say, we're only going to have cards or no cash in this retail center.
You've outlined the pros and cons of cash retail, but at the same time, we do need to discuss how much of this changes the dynamics of the commercial property space and just the day-to-day doing business in this sector. Yeah,
and we're looking predominantly at retail. You can rule out office and industrial in this sector. So predominantly you're looking at a retail. And when you look at retail, there's an enormous market for, spaza shops, this type of thing. And in fact, they run into the billions in terms of revenue that's traded in this informal sector. If you start looking at larger shopping centres that we actually track, we track just over 1,200 shopping centres in the country, ranging from the largest shopping centres, 180,000 square meters down to 2,000 square meter shopping centers. And so it's really the lower end of the shopping centers that you're seeing this starting to push into. And really when we start talking about the demand for shopping centers, we're talking about sub 8,000. We're seeing a lot of demand in that particular space. So where you look at line shops where, you'd park or you'd arrive and you can actually see the shop as opposed to a larger shopping center where you park and you walk inside and the shop's kind of face inward. And so we're seeing a lot of demand for these, on top of that KFCs and all of those type of, retail outlets and food outlets where people are arriving and, congregating and sort of trading quite quickly.
Having said that, the sustainability probabilities in this regard, what are they? Where do we stand in terms of this trend continuing?
Listen, I think, like I said, you need that sort of leapfrog event in South Africa where people actually start to use their cards and bank their cash as opposed to using actual cash, And I mean, the banking industry's been trying to push this agenda for a long time. It's not like it's a new thing. So I think that you're going to be dealing with years and years and years until you found that cash retail no longer exists. If you only can arrive with your ATM card or whatever it might be in the future, we might find we have at the moment, a lot of people use their phones or their watches. You'll see your Garmin Connect, so you have an e-card or whatever it might be. That might progress into something else. Maybe it's facial recognition or thumbprint recognition, who knows. But really where people are trying to get over is getting away from that actual cash. You've seen these cash and transit heists. And you've seen, people trying to arrive and rob stores and that kind of thing. That is really, that comes down to cash. You can't steal an ATM, or you could steal an ATM card. You've seen that happening as well. But maybe it comes into a situation where it's harder to actually just go and steal that bulk of cash with a cash in transit or something like that. So I would say you've got minimum 10 years until you start marginally getting this right.
Lastly, what's the overall near-term outlook for the commercial property space entering into a brand new year of 2024, given the challenges that exist?
I'm hugely bullish for this year, and I say that not only for ourselves in the commercial space, but all of the guys in the residential sector, and that is also in Gauteng, by the way, not just the Western Cape, which has been outperforming for the longest time, but really I'm really bullish for this year, not only because we see interest rates hardening or potentially reducing this year, which everyone's projecting. What that does, as soon as you have a reduction or a hardening in interest rates, it suddenly stops the purchasers pricing ahead of the curve. So what that means is when interest rates are going up and up and up and up, purchasers suddenly say, they take a very negative view of the market, and they'll say, well, we should be buying at 12%, but we're going to buy at 16% because the interest rates are going to go up even higher. And what this does is now says, no, the interest rates are where they are, and suddenly the purchasers, the buyers and sellers start to meet one another again, where the buyers were way ahead of the sellers, where sellers would sell. We're going to see a lot of transactions in the commercial market. But also just generally the sentiments in the market for any business is that, interest rates are going to soften a little bit, and that will give boost to the overall economy. And when that happens, people start taking decisions to expand their businesses. We've already seen this in the office sector, by the way, where people are saying, you know what, it's time to expand, it's time to go now. And so people are taking larger offices again, which will do a lot to soak up that glut that we've had since 2020, where we've had an oversupply of offices. People have come back to offices largely. There's the work from home thing, it doesn't really exist as strongly as it existed in 2020.
Yeah.
People have come back to offices. Everyone likes to be in the office, likes to build the culture of their business. But businesses came back more efficient. So where you were 1,000 square meters, you came back as 700, and so you've created a net vacancy in the market, and that ultimately created an oversupply, and that created this big issue in the market. That is now getting taken up as businesses start to grow again. So we're very positive for the market overall.
Galetti Commercial Real Estate CEO John Jack, thank you so much for your time talking us through the latest developments and anticipated trends in the commercial property space in the year of 2024.